The Heed the Call podcast. Never drops a ball before crossing the goal line.
Ever. I like now that they announce things. I don't know what compels these guys to feel the need to drop the ball. All right. Okay, we got it. Get it out. Welcome to Heed the Call, the flagship program, Week 15. The Sunday that was. Dan Hanzus here with Conor Orr, Justin Graver, and my fabulous partner in crime, Marc Sessler. Marc, this is the dog days of the regular season. I'm trying to prepare for the show today, and a cavalcade of Christmas carolers start singing Jingle Bells, and I had to stop, and I let the moment wash over me, and then I was proceeded straight downstairs to get to work, because that's what we do, because we're pros.
We are, and you got to weigh the responsibilities around friends, family, the concept of holidays, and the fact that we had like 22 football games unfurling at the same time today. There's a lot to juggle, but we've done this for a number of seasons in a row, and so even on a packed Sunday like this, I know that Conor's prepared. I know that Justin's prepared to handle what's ahead. I hope.
Absolutely.
I think.
Absolutely. I believe in
carolers.
Santa,
it sounds
and I
delightful.
believe in the heroes.
Was it Was it children carolers, or was it a combination of adults and children, or like
there were some adult chaperones and children carolers?
I get concerned when it's all children. You never know what they've got up their sleeve, but
Okay. All right, let's get into it. This was a big, busy Sunday that included the game of the year, or so we expected. However, there's one team that you'll remember their performance, and it wasn't the home team. Let's get it going with Justin Graver. He's leading the show, and will he hit the sound cue for the music? Everybody wants to know. Let's get to it. Sunday recap begins now.
What is real football?
Nailed it.
Is it tough, physical, defensive battles, a team grinding out a win by imposing their will? Or is it this? The highest scoring game of the year, 90 total points, 1,080 total yards, 58 total first downs. There was hardly a lick of defense played today in Detroit, but who could blame these two units, each banged and battered and facing one of the best offenses in the league? And as good as Jared Goff was, with over 500 total yards and 5 touchdowns, Josh Allen was simply better. Unstoppable even. The MVP, dare I say, the best football player in the world at this current moment. Did the game turn on an ill-advised onside kick by Detroit with 12 minutes remaining? Maybe. Would the Lions have stopped the Bills if they'd chosen to kick that one deep? Probably not. The Lions forced just one punt on the day, and the Bills come out on top, 48-42.
Yes. Not my favorite type of game. I know some people love it, especially fantasy heads. They're going to love that game because of all the yardage and scores and all that. But there was, and it spoke to me, guys, the desperation. And I hated the move that Dan Campbell made there.
Me too.
With the onside kick in that spot, that was, the move you do when, time's running out. And they still had how much time was left in the game when that
12
happened?
minutes.
12 minutes, yeah.
12 minutes to play, and to compound matters, it gets not only recovered by the Bills, but they run it down into the 10-yard line, and then all of a sudden they score another touchdown, and it's like that made me worry about the Detroit Lions, and we'll get to that, because I think there's a conversation we had about this storybook around the Lions and whether it's going to be a happy ending with all the issues they have on one side of the ball. But I agree with what you said there, Justin, that Josh Allen, I think, is playing at a higher level than anyone else in the world right now at professional football. I will also say this, Marc. I'm thinking back in the history that we've been doing this show, and we've seen some incredible quarterback seasons, but have I ever seen a guy dominate the league and play the position better than Allen does right now. And I can't remember a guy that's toying with the league at this level in all aspects of the game. So the Bills are in very good position with this quarterback.
Well, yeah, it's the way that he does it, because you could pinpoint a couple seasons by like a Drew Brees who, breaks the completion percentage record and is an absolute surgeon, but he wasn't this. This is someone who, in the past 2 weeks alone, Josh Allen on the ground and through the air has accounted for 854 yards and 10 touchdowns. I mean, that is insane. And then even on a day like today where you get Lamar Jackson doing what he's doing, and we'll talk about that, I think that the MVP race is wrapped. They face the Pats, the Jets, and the Pats over the next 3 weeks. This was the game to go do it, and it couldn't have happened with more emphasis from Josh Allen and just the offense in general.
He was awesome in this game, and so was Ty Johnson.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, the 2 catches that he made on that early drive, and Josh is always obviously defying time and space, he's in a far corner of the field and he's making these throws, but this is a guy out of the backfield that's making big time catches in tight coverage, and once you clear Stefon Diggs, there's been so much room for so many more people to develop in this offense, and God, it's been fun. It was Khalil Shakir last week, and every week we're finding new weapons at some point.
Well, I think what was so impressive about the Bills attacking, the game plan in this one was they know Detroit's going to run a lot of man coverage, and they know the linebackers are banged up and you got backups in there. And so they had these isolated matchups where they knew they were going to get the running back in space against a linebacker. And Ty Johnson by himself had 3 or 4 catches of 20 plus yards. And I think Ray Davis had one too. And then Ray Davis had the touchdown that came right after the failed onside kick attempt on a 4-second touchdown drive by the Bills. So they weren't getting those same explosive plays from the running backs in the passing game in the second half. And I think that was an adjustment that Detroit made, but they did so much damage in the first half, and then they did damage around the goal line that they didn't need those explosive plays the same way in the second half. But that was something credit to Joe Brady for identifying that and scheming it up this week.
And that switch to Joe Brady looks, again, like one of the smartest things that Sean McDermott's ever done. And I'm with you on the onside kick. And I think there's 2 things happening here. It's your head coach doesn't trust your defense, not only probably in general right now, but specifically in this situation. So does it force already the most aggressive head coach in the conference, in the league, to even take it up a notch? Because you kind of just sense that if you're going to kick it off to the Bills, they're going to go on a 6-minute drive that takes the entire game away. I think that's, in context, that's why that wouldn't happen in another situation. But here it was it's this or nothing maybe if you're Dan Campbell.
Yeah, and I guess that's what I didn't like about it. First of all, you have to declare it now with the new rules, the stupid rules that they put in this year. So there's no aspect of a surprise on it. And it is an acknowledgement that we literally can't stop you. And the only way we could possibly get back into this game is to steal the ball via a turnover and onside kick. And it's eye-opening when you think about who did that, because the Detroit Lions obviously have been this team. They were number 1 in our power rankings going into this game. Don't think they're going to stay there, but stay tuned for the midweek show. So it really, the idea, and I'll give Belichick a little bit of credit. I know he's busy down there in Chapel Hill now, but he called it a couple of weeks ago. That's just wait. The Lions are still getting to the quarterback, and the defense looks like it's holding it together post Hutchinson and all their other injuries. But you start playing big time teams, how's that defense going to look? And it does not look good. It's going to hobble them, I think, for the rest of the way. And now I really, for the first time, I worry whether they'll be able to make it through the NFC or they're going to have another bad day like this. Now, there's only one Buffalo Bills team, Connor, and one Josh Allen right now. But this defense, if it doesn't find some answers, they're done. They're going to get picked off in the playoffs by whether it's a Green Bay Packers team or a monster Sam Darnold game or whatever it could be. Detroit feels vulnerable to me for the first time.
They feel vulnerable if they don't decide to fundamentally change how they play. And I know that their style is like an overall team complement. It's like, this is how we want to play because this is the kind of team we want to be. But at some point, like Justin said, you're so thin at certain positions that you can't play a lot of man defense. You can't play a lot of physical football. And so, Aaron Glenn was more of a coverage guy last year. I mean, they were dropping back a lot more. They were letting things come to them more. I do wonder if they would kind of try to pivot more to like let's put an umbrella on this defense and let's just give our offense a chance to score 28, 29, 30 points a game.
All right, so the Bills already have the division wrapped up. Yes.
I just wanted to comment quickly on the Lions' injury situation while we talk about their banged-up defense, because they came into this game actually getting a bunch of guys back. DJ Reader, Levi Onwuzurike, Josh Paschal, Aleem McNeil, all set to return, all returned in this game, and then Aleem McNeil was ruled out with a knee injury in the second half, and Carlton Davis left the game in the first half. Dan Campbell said he doesn't feel good about either of those guys returning again this season. And then Carlton Davis's backup, Khalil Dorsey, was actually taken to the hospital after being carted off the field near the end of the first half in this game. So not only is Detroit already super banged up, they lost two more huge key pieces on that defense potentially for the season. It's crazy.
Yep, and they are now tied in the loss column with the Minnesota Vikings. It's going to be a dogfight just to win that division. So they have at Chicago, at San Francisco, and then home versus Vikings in Week 18 in a game that's got maybe Sunday Night Football written all over it. So we move forward. The Lions fall to 12-2, and the Buffalo Bills, man, God, this just feels like it. Feels like it's the year.
Quick shout out to Ed Oliver, by the way, who had 10 pressures in this game, the most by a defensive tackle in a game this season.
Anything else, Justin?
That's it.
All right.
I got to shout out Ed Oliver on a game like that. We can't just pass it by.
Thank you, Justin. We could not, and we did not. Now we move on to the other big game on the schedule, inter-conference, I don't know.
We've never figured that out.
Yeah, we haven't yet, and don't even try to help us because nothing sticks for some reason when it comes to it. Anyway, Philly, Pittsburgh, Conor Orr.
Answering all the questions I had about this team in a dickish manner that only a group of people from Philadelphia could, the Philadelphia Eagles slapped the Pittsburgh Steelers around on Sunday like a ginned-up mommy after book club in a 27-13 pummeling that barely featured Saquon Barkley and saw an immediate and productive relationship between A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts. Go figure. Sometimes a hoagie can change its stripes.
A hoagie.
With 10:40 remaining in this game, down by 2 scores, Mike Tomlin punted the ball away, unaware that he would never be on offense again. 21 plays, 88 yards, 10 minutes and 29 seconds. Good night, Irene. The Steelers lose.
Yeah, and the Eagles win. And shout out to the Eagles, man. I think, Connor, you and I were pretty hot on the idea of Pittsburgh maybe humbling Philly or potentially putting a stagger, and there was some, some of the stuff that happened around Brandon Graham and the quarterback and the wide receiver, and maybe this would be a situation where the Eagles lose their way, and yet they just took care of business in this game. And I thought that, Connor, is this a game that ever felt like it was in doubt? Because from where I was watching it, it seemed like Philadelphia, even when the game was close in terms of the score, they were just kind of toying with the Steelers, which is a team that hasn't been toyed with by anyone this year.
They were, and what was cool about this game was I thought it was one of Kellen Moore's best games, and you could see him using Saquon Barkley as a decoy a lot strategically. Like a lot of times he would put him in a motion in the backfield that would relay to Jalen Hurts kind of what kind of coverage is, the reason you use motion. But a lot of times it would suck a defender out of the gap, and then all of a sudden he'd put the ball right on A.J. Brown in that space, or you'd run a design run to Hurts. And I thought that that was the real money-making scheme in this game, was making them think that this was going to be another Saquon Barkley stomp fest, but then just using him all over the field as a little bit more of a decoy to get that passing game going. And if you feed A.J. Brown early, like, he is a similarly dominant presence. I mean, this guy was just crushing people in this game early, and they kept going back to that well.
I mean, they were 10 for 17 on third down. That is unusual. That just does not happen that often. And, we're trying to watch this along with the other games. Like, it looked like one of their more complete passing performances, especially in the first half. And you said it, to do this without Saquon Barkley, who's been the guy to hammer people endlessly down the stretch and be used as much as anyone on the field, was huge. And they overcame the gigantic day from TJ Watt before he got hurt at the very end, because he had the strip sack. He had the second major takedown of Jalen Hurts. And they survived those moments where you thought Pittsburgh could get back into the game. And it's like, it's a leveler performance to me. It's like, okay, Pittsburgh is back down where we think they are, because had they ever pulled this off, I'm like, what are the Steelers able to do? Now I'm pretty sure what they're not able to do.
Let's see. TJ Watt after the game, no boot or crutches for Watt post game. He said he rolled his ankle, X-rays negative, so that's a good sign for the Steelers. They actually clinched a playoff berth today, even with the loss, because of losses by Indianapolis and Miami. So Pittsburgh is going to be in the playoffs now. It's just a matter of like staying healthy and trying to get there with some sense of momentum. With Barkley, because I know he went to the tent in this game, was that and you were saying they were using him as a diversion in some level. Was he really banged up, or what's his status?
It looked like a hip thing, but he came back later on in the game. Like, he took some time off before the half, but like even that last final drive, he was directly involved in 8 of the 22 plays on that final drive. So I think everything's okay with Saquon. The other part of this too is that Kenneth Gainwell was having a really good game. And
I like him.
I wonder if it's one of those situations too where as soon as Kellen Moore got a feel for everything, like Gainwell had some big catches in this game and some big first downs. And so you just get a feel for it, and you just wonder if it's like, maybe this is a game where we don't have to run Saquon 30 times and put him at risk of getting hurt in the playoffs. And, once they kept him out for a couple series, that offense was still doing really well. And I think that's what I needed to see personally. Like, I thought they were just kind of using Saquon as a hammer to beat up some bad rushing defenses, but this was the total team performance I think I was looking for, and I'm sold now. I feel like a huge dick not drafting them in the Super Bowl contenders thing and making a big fuss about it, because this team looks awesome.
Yeah, that Pittsburgh, how often did they even have the ball in the second half?
I think it was 6 minutes of possession. Total.
Wow.
Yeah.
That one drive was insane. I love drives like that.
And the craziest part about that final drive was like the Eagles were in like 3rd and 13, 3rd and 12, like 3rd and 10, and they were just picking up these massive, gutting first downs. It wasn't like this. It wasn't like an Army drive where you're just 2 or 3 yards at a time. Like they needed some big passing plays. And I completely changed the way I thought about this Eagles offense.
And to your point, like that 21 play drive to end it, but the 2 before it were a combined 26 plays, 2 13-yard marches, and that's unusual for the Steelers defense. Like, they were dominated, and that has to be concerning.
21 plays, and they didn't even score. Yeah, here it is from Jimmy Kempski.
Just end the game.
Last 3 drives, 13 plays, 47 yards, 708 field goal. 13 plays, 74 yards, 633 touchdown. 21 plays, 88 yards, 10:29 of the clock, end of game. And Tomlin, and he had a funny moment with a referee that he was annoyed with in this game. And if you're watching on YouTube, where you should be ingesting this program, he obviously had to be very frustrated by his performance. Look at him. He's like, get the away from me. You're allowed to say that, by the way? Like in baseball, you drop the F-bomb like that, you get tossed. But I guess they give the football coaches a longer leash. He got conservative, too, before that final march of doom by Philadelphia, right, Connor?
Yeah, I mean, you handed them the ball, and it was weird. I mean, I thought that the Steelers' offense had some moments, but a huge Najee Harris fumble in this game that I think really kind of turned the tide of this entire thing, and it just sucked out any remaining momentum. But nice, like a fun play call. They had I've never seen a flea flicker off of a toss play where it was like a toss back, and then Jalen Warren ran toward the line and then threw it back to Russell Wilson, and then they threw the ball downfield. So there were some creative play calls and trying to kind of generate a little bit of offense, but it just wasn't nearly enough. I mean, these two teams are on a different tier at this point.
All right, and one more thing, because this tickled me. This shot of the Fox booth during this game. Let's check this out. You'll like this comparison, Mark. So you have Brady and Burkhardt. They're in conversation. And then in the back corner, in really kind of almost a creepy way, it's Dino Blandino just hanging out there. It's got, to me, it was giving me some real Eyes Wide Shut vibes.
Okay, I can see that. I mean, I would say the framing, it's almost like they're, because isn't this the situation where Brady initially, like early in the year, didn't quite know how to interact with the creepy individual, whoever they placed in the back, whether it was Dean or fill in the blank? Like, it just seems like a very odd directional concept for a three-person type situation. Now, you don't even slide him in like they used to do with Collinsworth and Al Michaels.
They got to stick him in the corner.
Right. It's just it's a little emasculating.
Do you know why Dean's in the corner, by the way?
I don't, but Burkhardt here is committing a cardinal men's fashion sin, and it's one that appears a lot this time of year, and it drives me insane.
I love Connor fashion tips. Go ahead.
Me of all people, right? But it's when you wear the quarter zip and then you put the suit jacket over it. You have to pick one, and a lot of like football types like think that this is an acceptable maneuver this time of year, but you have to pick one. It's either a quarter zip and a nice overcoat, or it's the suit and tie combo. Like Brady looks good.
Yeah, that's a layering concept you don't agree with. I understand that.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I would say that I think it looks pretty sharp. I mean, he's wearing his handsome boy suit, so he probably doesn't want to cover it with an overcoat. So this is his way to be around it. But the reason why Blandino is in the corner is because Dean likes to watch.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Leave it there.
Connect the dots.
Leave it at that. All right, up next, another game with big playoff ramifications in Houston. Here we go. Oh, see? Good job by the producer. Justin, moving up. My favorite song in the rundown. Turn this up in my headphones. Here we go. Key change. Love it. Anyway, the hopes of this intrepid game watcher were high around the prospect of a sneaky shootout in Houston on Sunday. The Dolphins have moved the ball with proficiency since the return of Tua to the lineup, while the Texans, well, there's no real evidence of looming offensive breakout for C.J. Stroud and friends, but it does feel overdue, right? Well, there was no shootout to be found in Texas, not at the stadium anyway. In fact, it was the Houston defense, led by the great Sting, whose 2 fourth-quarter interceptions of Tagovailoa helped lock down a 20-12 win for the home team. The Texans clinched a playoff spot. Later in the day when the Colts lost, they win the AFC South, while the Dolphins and their playoff hopes have been moved from the ICU to hospice care. Yeah, I
love Sting.
I know, Michael Shundigar, and he was awesome. Derek Stingley, his second interception ended the game essentially, and it came on a day where the offense had season low 190 yards. So Houston getting the turnovers really allowed them to win this game. So if you look at Houston and how do you make sense of where they fit in the big picture when we talk about who can win the Super Bowl, I still find them to be just a supporting player that is, primed to be picked off. But their defense has, and especially in the past month, had impact games and, with turnovers and touchdowns and just having timeliness to their impact plays that has really helped in a season where the offense just cannot get in gear. We know the issues with C.J. Stroud and how he has not developed as we thought he would in year 2, but their running game also continues to be kind of boom or bust, and it was again today where Joe Mixon was under 50 yards rushing for the third time since week 9. So Houston, it's a mixed bag for Houston. They get the win. On the Dolphins side, it's just another year where the Dolphins, they melt down and they were lucky to escape with the win against the lowly Jets last week at home. In this game, Tua and the offense just was completely out of sync. Tua had 4 turnovers in the game, and time again they had opportunities to turn this game in a different direction, and the offense just was not able to do it. So their running game has been bad. Tua had been very good until this game, and he was terrible. And as a result, it looks like another dark January for the Dolphins. And you can't blame the weather here because they played in a dome.
Yeah, I think the biggest concern, like holistically for Miami, is you're not really a playoff team at this point. We're not even talking about that. But Mike McDaniel spent the early part of seasons dominating people with speed and in fair weather. But you went up against DeMeco Ryans, who knows you and knows your scheme and has known you inside the building back in San Francisco and understands what he's dealing with. And while other people who don't know as well haven't been able to stop Tua, they completely diagnosed that offense. Like Tua, who I think has looked really comfortable overall since he's returned, looked completely uncomfortable to me today. And it turned into big major turnovers. And I do think Houston, they're going to win ugly. I don't know if the Stroud thing gets fixed this year, but someone like Derek Stingley, you try to throw the ball at him. He allowed 30 yards on 6 receptions and got those 2 killer picks. And so I believe in the DeMeco Ryans defense as something that can change games and make people very uncomfortable. But I'm with you. I kind of feel like this is sort of a lukewarm playoff offering or division winner that I just, I'm disappointed with the thing I wanted most, which is CJ Stroud.
Yeah, after the game, Houston coach DeMeco Ryans said Stingley is playing just unbelievable football right now. And in addition to the 2 interceptions, he locked down Tyreek Hill. I mean, it was a great performance. And if he gets Defensive Player of the Week, it would not surprise me. So, I think what happens next here for the Dolphins is interesting. I wonder where Mike McDaniels is at. I know he's probably fine, right? But this is these Miami teams all kind of seem similar under him, and they have moments where they're just exciting to watch, and then they tend to fizzle out. And Connor, I don't know, do you feel like he's definitely safe at the end of this year right now, Mike McDaniel?
I think the Dolphins are always in that category where you put it under, and it's like a weird thing to talk about, but it just comes up a lot, which is their owner is kind of near death, and it's and it's like a weird thing because it's he wants to see a Super Bowl now, so he'll just do something silly and just, the whole concept of that is flawed, but I do think it comes up, especially when you're talking about the Dolphins. But I really think that there's been so much more good. I mean, if you look at and understand this doesn't matter to a lot of people right now, but the NFLPA survey, they're always the number one favorite team to play for in the NFL, favorite team to work for. There's a lot of good things that happen. And so I think I would be completely shocked if they ended up moving on from him.
One other note, there was a very, very scary injury in the third quarter. Miami receiver Grant DuBose taken off the field on a stretcher after a nasty helmet-to-helmet hit over the middle. Really bad, cutting off his jersey, strapping his arms down on the board. They had wires and everything hooked up on him, and it was very concerning and scary, obviously. But McDaniel said after the game that there's been some positive feedback related to some head and neck imaging. He'll stay at the hospital overnight, and they're going to find out more on Monday. So that shut down the game for 11 minutes, and it looked really scary.
For the people that spend every day with him. I know it's cliche to be it's hard to go out there and play again, but you just don't know how some of the people on that team maybe floated away mentally after that.
Yeah, the Dolphins' playoff hopes, by the way, have nosedived. I think they're down to 4%. Playoff probability. So that was a game they needed, and they came up really flat. And yeah, it just feels like the Dolphins in their current iteration are just stuck in the mud a little bit in terms of development and being able to unlock the next level. McDaniel will probably get another chance next year, but this is a very disappointing outcome to this season. One last stat from Next Gen. The Dolphins generated negative 48 rushing yards over expectation against Houston. Run game's been terrible. Devon Achane cannot get into open space, and in general, just a very disappointing game for Miami. All right, let's take a break, and when we get back, more Week 15. Oh, man, it is the best feeling when clothes fit good and look good. That's exactly how I feel about my clothing from Doer. I put on this shirt, and I'm not lying. It fundamentally changed the dynamic of my relationship with my wife. I just think she immediately complimented it, and the compliment for my Doer shirt is a compliment for me. So it's strengthened my marriage. I mean, what else can I say? I mean, that's the power of Duer. So trust me, if you haven't ordered your own Duers yet, now is the time. Duer has styles that can be worn all year round. Their stretch performance denim and lifestyle apparel is built for doing, like the fireside denim and all-weather denim, perfect for the colder winter months to keep you warm without overheating. Plus, Duer is committed to sustainability, meaning these are clothes we can feel good about purchasing. Do what I did. Upgrade your denim with Duer. Check out Duer's flagship stores in LA or Denver, or shop online at shopduer.com/HTC. Right now, Heed the Call listeners get 20% off their first purchase when you use our exclusive URL, shopduer.com/HTC. That's an awesome deal, so don't wait. To get 20% off, go now to shopduer, shopduer.com/HTC. It will save your marriage. Heed the Call. Dan Hanzus and Marc Sessler is on Underdog, so why not start playing on Underdog today? It's not just the NFL. The NBA is back. You got the NHL. You got college sports. So many options. So don't miss out. Download and play on the Underdog app. Sign up with the code HTC and receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Make the most of this NFL season by playing along on Underdog for our U.S. audience only. All right, we are back. Lots to get to, so let's dive right back in. Sessdog, take us to SoFi. I know you love to go there.
Who are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Every time I looked at Baker Mayfield's face today, it was beet red, like a wild, uninvited townie smashing beer cans on his own forehead inside a frat house. It was everything Baker promises. 3 of the best throws you'll see all day, a killer interception, a near second pick, about 50 yards in rushing taken away by penalties, hobbling around early, then the fire of God in him as points came raining down against the NFL's previously top-scoring defense. Baker and Mike Evans, Rick and Cliff, Lewis and Clark, Ernie and Bert. Okay, maybe not Ernie and Bert, but the kind of duo with the power to shock a playoff heavy. Bucks 40, Chargers 17.
Wow.
I think this is one of the most surprising results of the month. Like
I totally lost track of this game, Mark. Like I didn't have it on, and then I just happened to catch the score bug at one point, and I saw the 40. I was like, "What the hell happened?" So what the hell happened?
It is even atypical for what this offense has been. Mayfield had not thrown a true deep touchdown since week 7. He had 2 today, and it had. I think part of it is that he was going up against Mike Evans, up against an inexperienced aspect of the Chargers secondary, and absolutely took control. And it wasn't just him. Jalen McMillan is a really good young wide receiver on this Bucs offense as well. And Baker was just on a heater. He had one really bad pick, and then on the next possession, they fumbled. He didn't, but one of the running backs did. And it seemed like the Chargers were going to be into this. But the other side of the coin, while the Bucs were just going wild, and they can run the ball so much better under Liam Cohen, is that Justin Herbert and Mark Sanchez said it right away. He's like, I was watching Justin Herbert before this game, and he does not look physically himself, not comfortable. I mean, he was beat up against the Chiefs, and he couldn't really move, and that aspect to his game was diminished. He moved a little bit, and it didn't look like a complete disaster. But then the Bucs today stopped the run and started punishing Justin Herbert. There were a couple hits he took that I thought could have been roughing the passers that weren't, but there might have been 5 or 6 instances where his teammates had to literally pull him off the turf. I mean, he was beaten up, and they couldn't run the ball. We were told that this is going to be one of the AFC's premier ground attacks, and the Bucs shut it down, put them in a bad spot. And even though Ladd McConkey is, I think, arguably the most productive rookie wideout this season, like without him and beyond him, he played well today. But once they took that away, they don't have anywhere else to go. And they're like the team I'm concerned about as much as I'm about the Texans, where it's like, I think today showed that they can be completely controlled and overpowered by a certain type of offense and a certain type of defense.
Yeah. That the AFC playoff picture, you're trying to say, okay, how does this get juicy? Well, Denver keeps winning. We'll get to them later. So they're in good position. But yeah, you see an outcome like this, and yeah, we're hearing now, like earlier in the season, Connor, that Herbert's beat up. and they've had their injury issues. Obviously, like the Chargers could be vulnerable here, and Charger fans don't want to hear that because Chargers going to Charger and all that. That's supposed to go away with Jim Harbaugh. But an outcome like this makes you wonder what they have left in the tank as we come down the stretch.
Yeah, and I don't know, like, when we get to this time of year, like, we say, well, it all proves out, and it means that this team is one thing or another, and I just think that Los Angeles did take advantage of certain stretches of their schedule. I think they're a little bit better than they were last year after gutting some talent, but this is kind of who they are until they can put a serious weapon set around Justin Herbert, and they can keep him upright reliably, and they can give him some time to get healthy. I mean, I don't think this is like some sort of massive referendum. I mean, I picked the Buccaneers in our Super Bowl draft a couple weeks ago because they can do this. I mean, they did this to the Philadelphia Eagles early in the season. They did it to the Detroit Lions. Like, this is a team that can just go berserk and kick the crap out of you. And especially with Mike Evans. I mean, you know, it blows my mind how well Liam Cohen was able to utilize like Evans and Cade Otton to just create these massive bunches where fast receivers could run around them into wide open space. Like, he was on a heater today too. So it was, you know, I don't worry about the Chargers because the Chargers were never really supposed to be that good this year anyway.
Yeah.
The one thing that Liam Cohen did today, which you like to see because it's how people just assume like a Shanahan is every game, is that they got into a flow in the second half where they could do no wrong. And I think it depends that it is the Chargers have had a really good defense no matter what, and like it didn't matter. Like they just were absolutely getting everyone open and punishing with the ground game. They didn't have that last year.
Gravedigger.
Yes, Mr. Gravedigger.
Connor, what was that you said about picking the Bucs in our Super Bowl contender draft?
Did I pick the Bucs or no?
No,
Oops.
you
Oh,
picked
shit.
the Seahawks with your third pick.
Oh boy. Yeah, it's embarrassing. Can I do what Dan did and drop the Seahawks and pick up the
Too
Bucs?
late.
Yeah, if you had
So
done
how that worked out for me. I
Yeah.
picked up the 49ers. That was doomed as well.
Well,
What was a patented Justin moment right there?
Hey, he's
just wanted to set the record straight for
Well,
our
we know
listeners.
we
important.
know
might be
that's true, and
confused.
that's honorable.
right.
But we know you like to set it straight. We get that about you.
And if now that I've introduced the idea of a Chargers collapse, let me try to set some Bolts fans' minds at ease. And I'm sure you already know this, but they finish home Broncos, at New England, at Vegas. So you should be okay. But yeah, there's a little doubt creeping in after that game. All right, up next, we head to Duval. Connor.
Yeah. The directive was clear from Jeff Ulbrich to his unit on Sunday. Whatever you do, please don't lose to that squirrely little shit Mac Jones. We're going to fake punts. We're going to go for it on fourth down. Whatever it takes, and the team heard that message loud and clear. You've got it, boss. Let's come as close as humanly possible to losing to that squirrely little shit Mac Jones before mounting an impressive but still fundamentally bizarre game-winning drive. Jets 32, Jags 25. Devontae Adams was unleashed. 9 balls for 198 yards and 2 touchdowns in the second half.
Hey-o.
And the Jets, for the first time, won a regular season game with Jeff Ulbrich. Danny, who's going to stop this team, baby? Let's go.
Oh, man. You know, seeing this version of Aaron Rodgers since the bye, he's playing at such a higher level now that it just makes you think. And
You're almost there.
It makes you wonder if the idea of bringing Rodgers and Devontae Adams back.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's hear what Keith has to say.
His name is Ken, he's Dan's dad. Without a doubt, he's a big Jets fan. What is he gonna say about Gabe Green today? What is he gonna say about Gabe Green today? Today, what is he gonna say today?
Great win by the Jets today, 32-25. A good comeback after a very quiet first half and another close nail-biter. But it was great to see both Rodgers and Devontae Adams get on the same page. They were like spectacular together. So I think that It gives a little, the fact that it's only their fourth win, that just shows how starved we are for victories. But the good thing that I could see is maybe there is a possibility for Rodgers next year to be with the Jets, not just based on this game, but also he might be able to help if the Jets do get a quarterback, that he could be helping the rookie do well, or whoever they get do well. All right, I think that there's still hope. So great performance by the Jets today. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, see, we're all Jets fans. We're all kind of getting sucked in a little bit. It doesn't take much because there's a lot of reasons why you do move on from Aaron Rodgers and why Devontae Adams should just be a one-year rental. But there's also this weird thing that if you look at Rodgers' stats now, he's up to 3,300 yards, 23 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. This is so dark, but it's one of the best Jet quarterback seasons I've ever seen in my life. Like, so that tells you where the bar is. And in general, Connor, the way he scrambled for like 50 yards in this game, he just looked much more like the Rodgers that we know. And it just, if nothing else, it should be giving management pause and thinking about what is our plan and does he fit in, even if he's not the quarterback long term at this point.
Well, can you do it the right way? And I mean, they've had some good play. Like their offensive line played really well today, right? And that's something where Aaron Rodgers took the longest amount of time to throw the ball all season. He had like a 3.14 time to throw, which is forever in his world, right? And he only got pressure on like 10% of his dropbacks, right? So you get these games where he can get into a flow, where he can pick up the field and see it the way that he wants to see it. This is what you're going to get, but can you build it the right way and make this a consistent thing? I mean, you're not relying on older offensive linemen. You're not relying on different things. Like, there's a way that this works. There was always a way that this works, but there were fundamental flaws in the plan.
Well, I mean, I think the problem, and it's a good experience for Jets fans to feel what you feel today, and that like, come on, we've been waiting for this. But organizationally, it's in a very Jets situation where you're pondering the concept of bringing these two people back, but you don't have a general manager, you don't have a head coach, and you've got to foist. That's the first thing that they have to say yes to is the Aaron Rodgers experience and everything that goes with it as part of day one. Part of me is just like, this is such an important process for them. Like, really? I mean, we really think we're going to get this like all next year from Aaron Rodgers? Like, I would almost say that it's not very fair to the next regime, whoever they are, to saddle with them with this out of the gate.
Yeah, and that's certainly a fair way to look at it. And I guess just the flip side is, but if he's a quarterback that's still playing at a pretty high level, doesn't that help the next regime also? But if they do draft a rookie, it doesn't force them to put him on the field necessarily. A lot of stuff to figure out on that end. Before we move on, we got to talk a little bit more about that's the only thing I really want to talk about is Mac Jones.
So good.
Connor, like Mac Jones, I tweeted this, and I know we were like in lockstep as we were watching this game. Like, I'm going to miss that guy when he's gone. I don't know how much longer he hangs around in the league. Who was on the call in this game? It was I
believe it was Schler. Wasn't it Schlereth and
check that for us, Justin. Here was the explanation of at one point a replay of a Mac Jones scramble, and I just loved. Was it Schlereth?
Yeah, it was Mark Schlereth and Chris Myers.
All right, so here's Schlereth explaining the essence of Mac Jones, the athlete, after a first down scramble.
Mac Jones, not known for athleticism or arm talent, really known for being a real smart guy.
Real smart guy. So that play, just to describe to everybody what happened, like Mac Jones got out of the pocket and kind of attempted like a backward spin, but was basically just like throttling his body at a defender and almost got like helicoptered one way. And he was so like... He did so many funny things in this game, and like I don't know if there's any college basketball fans listening to this, but like Grayson Allen from Duke, who would just like punch guys in the balls all the time, like that's what Mac Jones was doing. Like he ran to the sidelines to go out of bounds, and I think it was him and Javon Kinlaw came face to face, and he wouldn't go out of bounds. He just stood there. In bounds, and then walked out like sarcastically. And then there was another one where
he should have thrown it away, by the way. Also, so it was a stupid decision on top of it.
there was another one where he like had a pretty decent scramble, and then he's on the sideline like whooping it up and like spinning his arms in the air, and I was like, this rocks. Like this guy, look at this one. Oh my God! Like this guy, he needs to be a starting quarterback in the NFL again.
You know what I was thinking about? Like as I was watching him, the way he moves, you don't see at the quarterback position anymore, especially guys that are not older guys. Someone that looks that unathletic playing the game anymore.
Yeah.
He's definitely like a throwback to a 1980s type quarterback. Even like it feels like his shoulder pads
like
are a
Mark
little too
Bulger.
big for the era. He's like a, what is it? Anachronistic? How do you pronounce that? It's like he's out of time with the world that he exists within. And he's such a dick. And it's like, it's good to have a guy like that around. And it's also great to beat a guy like that. Zach Rosenblatt, who covers the Jets for The Athletic, because Sauce Gardner ended the game. It was 3rd and 1. The Jets, after a questionable time clock management maneuver, deciding to score from in close instead of running the clock down and kicking a field goal, gave Jacksonville a chance. They're 3rd and 1 near midfield, and Mac just throws a it ball downfield, and it's intercepted by Sauce. Rosenblatt's tweet after, Sauce Gardner said it was a little extra special getting the interception off Mac Jones because of their history, and then open parenthetical from Zach Rosenblatt, Jones punched him in the nuts when he was with the Patriots. Parenthetical. Wow. He really is Grayson Allen.
Justin has a good note on the celebration.
Yeah, if you guys don't know what this is, it's he's doing what they call the Rizzler, which the Rizzler is that guy that's often featured in the TikToks with the Costco brothers, AJ and Big Justice or whatever the
that
their
only
names
adds
are.
to the mythology that we're discussing here.
Like he's a dick who knows he's a dick.
Yes.
But he also has no real ability to play the game. But he's hanging around in the league, and I would like him to hang around for another 10 to 15 years.
I have 2 more quick notes on this
Yes.
game. You had mentioned Ladd McConkey, Mark, is a candidate for best rookie wide receiver. I think Brian Thomas is right on his heels. Brian Thomas had another excellent game.
Really good.
They put him everywhere. The Jets could not cover him at all. And the other thing, it just came to me, but like the Jags did a whole throwback thing today. And Doug Peterson had on the vintage V-neck windbreaker with the visor, and that was just like one of the coolest. Like it looked like, and then Mac Jones, like you said, with the aesthetic with the big shoulder pads. Like I felt like I was watching like the 1998 Tom Coughlin Jaguars. You
don't get the sense you'll be watching Doug Peterson wear Jags gear for much longer.
Not for too much longer.
No, but it was fun while it lasted. Every minute of it.
Yeah. All right. And I'm glad that we got Keith on the show today because we were edging closer to not being able to have Keith talk about one Jets win this season. So we checked that box. And shout out to my dad for his intrepid reporting, as always. All right. Let's move on. Up next, we head to, drum roll, please. I scramble to Denver. Ha ha ha. Oh, Jonathan Taylor, my man, my dude. You won a lot of fantasy leagues for people a few years back, but the years since have featured a distinct lack of, shall we say, memorable moments. You changed that narrative on Sunday, but not in the way I imagine you would have dreamt it up. Yep, Jonathan Taylor became the latest NFL player to drop the ball before reaching the goal line on a walk-in score. I don't know what compels these guys. I don't know what it is, but they gotta drop the ball. All right, we get it, buddy. Anyway, it's a blunder that kept the Colts from going up either 13 or 14 points on the Broncos in the third quarter in this game. Instead, Taylor's blooper was the catalyst for a uprising for the home team and the beginning of the end for Indy and its flickering playoff hopes as the Broncos scored the game's final 24 points after that in a 31-13 win. Just brutal. Tough. Colts, man, they're a tough watch. The Colts are a tough watch on offense, obviously, especially because they don't want to talk about it, but Anthony Richardson cannot throw the football, at least not this stage of his career. He had another one of his scattershot days where the stat line was hideous, And could his receivers help him out? Sure. Would it have been nice if Alec Pierce could stay healthy? He exited the game, I believe, with a concussion. Sure. But another sub 50% completion percentage day for Richardson, who was under 100 yards until, picking up some garbage yardage late in the game. He threw 2 interceptions in this one. And, Taylor with the blunder that kind of will probably be how we remember this Colts season. So the Colts drift away at 6-8, and the Broncos now have a chokehold on a playoff spot. They're 9-5, and they did it on a game. Listen to this, Cess Dog. They won. They put up a 30-burger in this game. They had 193 total yards of offense, averaging 3.2 yards per play in a game where Bo Nix threw 3 interceptions. So Indy's defense wasn't at fault on any level, but the offensive struggles, Taylor's mega blunder, and the Broncos making big plays and big spots got it done.
Well, in his third interception, predates that critical moment in the game. I mean, because when you've got your quarterback, and we all know where we are with the Anthony Richardson side of things, but some of the I feel like every time I look down, and his overthrows are different than anyone else's in the league. Like, they're insane. And the Broncos completely scrambled him in zone coverage today. You mentioned the completion percentage in that situation. It's like he is not seeing the field or processing. On that first drive when he ran the ball, and it's like, that's why we like him. But I almost feel like to use him in sub packages or something, because he's hurting you too often. And you get 3 interceptions off of Bo Nix, and soon after that fumble happens, that's where I think you get a little outrage with Jonathan Taylor, where it's like, you got to do everything you can to establish what would have been a 20-7 lead against the best score. They became the best scoring defense, the Broncos, today, because of what happened to the Chargers. And they're legit and they're real, but they were hurting themselves with mistakes. And the Colts just handed over their playoff berth, season over with a lot of questions.
There was a third down in this game where Anthony Richardson, it was 3rd and 7, I think, and he had the ball in his own end zone, and he went to throw it and it wasn't there, and he tucked it, and then he started to try to back scramble and eventually did get himself out of the end zone. But that was one of those, you get 4 or 5 of those a game where you're just holding your breath and you're like, God, what is he doing? And I guess when you're that big and you're that fast, more often than not, it works out for you. But I mean, at that point they were leading. It's just get rid of the ball, just get rid of it, but he's not there.
And here's the other thing with it is at halftime, Steichen is interviewed, and he did the same thing he did earlier in the season when the reporter asks, how do you get Anthony Richardson to go? And he's like, I need to do a better job. I need to, come up with better plays for him. And they're doing all they can to protect him, but at the end of the day, it could be an isolating experience when you're the quarterback and your throws are what they are and they're not where they need to be. What's up, Connor?
Is it just me, or is it just late in the season or the time of the year? But Shane Steichen sounds like Jimmy Stewart from It's a Wonderful Life. And if you listen to it in a certain way, it's just we got to help Anthony Richardson and keep Mr. Potter away from getting the, from taking all these people's homes. And, it's sometimes I think it's all just running together for me. But he really does do a smack on Jimmy Stewart.
And Steichen also, because the offense is not functional, the passing game, they resort to trying to get cute, and that led to a total disaster in this game. They're down 17-13 with 12:29 to play. They call it a double pass where it was Richardson threw it to Adonai Mitchell, who attempted to throw it back to Anthony Richardson. What could go wrong? And Nick Bonito, who's been having an awesome year, stepped in front of Richardson, picked it off in midair. It went down as a fumble recovery. It was taken to the house 50 yards for a touchdown, and the game was pretty much over at that point. So, yeah.
He did a triple hitch like he was in high school. Why
is A.D. Mitchell involved in that play to begin with? And secondly, what are we doing here? I mean, I don't mind a creative approach to get out of a jam, but that was one of the more dangerous type of trick plays out there. And I mean, Bonito made an incredible
cut on it. That's what I'm saying, though. I think because they're running he's probably looking at that play sheet He's like, what can I call to move this offense with having a running back that doesn't hold on to the ball when he's near the goal line, a quarterback who can't hit the broadside of a barn. So let me dial into my bag of trips to try to steal a touchdown here. And, everything's connected, I guess is what I mean. So on the Denver side, yeah, not the prettiest game. Knicks has now thrown, I think, 5 picks in the last 2 weeks. Keep an eye on that. But at the end of the day, they did a nice job taking control of this team and taking a game from a bad team. The Colts are not a good team, and thankfully they will not be a team we have to watch after the end of the regular season. All right, let's take a break, and when we come back, more Week 15.
Are you playing an Underdog yet? Maybe you don't love the idea of building a pick'em entry. That's okay, because Underdog also has streaks. Enter for as little as $1, get a nice streak going, 1 pick at a time, and you can win as much as 1,000 times your entry. Or, if you built up a streak and don't want to risk it anymore, you can cash out your streak anytime. So download and play on the Underdog app, sign up with the code HTC, and receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash for our U.S. audience only.
All right, we're back. Cess Dog takes us to the Meadowlands.
"224 feet above East Rutherford, New Jersey, a civilian aircraft drags a banner that reads, 'Mr. Mara, enough. We won't stop until you fire everyone.' The pilot is in another universe, thanks to a pure strain of electric Bolivian cocaine. Down on Earth, the Giants float through the workday, allowing Lamar Jackson to blow the doors off everyone's favorite Tiffany franchise. 5 touchdowns, 4 incompletions. When he's not ripping through New York's confused front, he's making Rashad Bateman look like the love child of Tim Brown. This is the Lamar Jackson who makes you believe. Big plays, soul-crushing gallops, and deadly accuracy. The game veers into hardcore garbage time by 3:03 p.m. Eastern. Our cocaine-fueled pilot lost forever over East Moriches Bay. Ravens 35, Giants 14.
Yeah. Do we have proof that he was on cocaine? I don't want to get hit with a lawsuit.
Well, I didn't name names, but I have, I've got
You have sources?
strong sourcing on this.
This game went more or less exactly how everyone expected, Mark, huh?
It did, but what I would say is that Lamar Jackson was so perfect that it's not surprising. He has more games with 5 touchdowns and 0 picks than everyone but Drew Brees and Tom Brady. I know that was floating around out there. But, when it was a 16.5 spread, it was like, oh, you might be able to nip in here if the Giants can hang around. Like, the Giants were just so completely out of it. And Tommy DeVito, everything went wrong. He got concussed. Right before halftime, and you're bringing in your third guy at this point, and
Tommy Meatballs got
Tim
concussed.
Boyle.
Tim Boyle. Like, here's the thing: Tommy DeVito did not look terrible, and nor did they did not. They were passing the ball pretty well. It was just that the Ravens' offense was so completely unstoppable. They didn't even need to really use Derrick Henry much today. It was very Lamar Jackson based. He did it on the ground. He was absolutely precision passing through the air. And then suddenly, like, Rashad Bateman wakes up, and I think the Giants just looked to me mentally, spiritually shot. I want to say one little tiny thing about the Ravens that concerns me, because I don't know what to take from a game like this. You drop a hammer on a lost football team,
Move on,
but
right.
there was one drive where the Giants were able to puncture the Ravens defense, and it only happened for one reason: the Ravens penalties. And then it makes me think, there was a crushing group of penalties where on the course of one series, there was a roughing the passer penalty that put the Giants right back into it. Seconds later, a defensive pass interference on 1st and goal. Seconds later, there's Tommy DeVito is sacked out. He's sacked and it's completely wiped out by hands to the face. Then they run in for a touchdown, and they're only down 14-7 at that point. It's like, that's fine. I knew that wouldn't affect today, but what happens when the most penalized defense in the league does this when it matters most against a real team? It's just a little crack in the armor. Otherwise, a pretty much perfect day for them.
Yeah. You're a penalized guy, huh? I like to go penalized, but maybe you're more secure. I don't know.
If I could have it back, I'd go flagged. I don't really want to even go down the road of that word, but...
Yeah, I tend to think that you keep hearing And now Belichick obviously is off the board also. Not that seemed like it was ever realistic, but that Joe Shane and Dable are safe. But I don't know. Like, these are embarrassing, ugly games week after week for the Giants, and you just wonder. Now, also to the credit of, I guess, Josh Allen, or maybe to the fact that everyone just wants Josh Allen to win the MVP this year, because Lamar already has 2. We can't rule out Lamar winning the MVP still. And so on this another amazing day from Josh Allen, who's on an all-time heater, Lamar casually throws 5 touchdowns and just 4 incompletions today. So he could still win that thing, and he ran the ball better, probably listened to his mom's advice this week. Like, Lamar is a bad man, and certainly that is not a done deal, the MVP, if this guy's playing at this level.
We're really going to kowtow to these dumbasses in the airplane, though. Like, seriously. Like, I mean, like, these Giants fans are upset because they're not winning games with their 4th-string quarterback. Like, grow up,
Yeah, what was the language again? It seemed almost a little bit,
like, if you don't, we will not stop. Go ahead then.
Fire everyone. What?
Yeah, here it is. Right, it's very entitled. It's Mr. Mara. They called him Mr. at least, but Mr. Mara, M dash, like, enough. We won't stop until you fire everyone.
Okay,
well,
go waste
like,
your
we're so
clearly
scared. The billionaire upstairs is like, oh my God, there's a plane 300 yards above the stadium. What am I going to do now? They're going to keep doing it. It's like,
I think what would annoy Mara more is that there were a flood of photos released like from the stadium before halftime. And this is not the way I grew up watching, like seeing, the old Giants stadium. It was like more than half empty. People were just bailing on the experience. But it's that time of year, and the situation's
people get
dire.
hurt. Like, like, I don't know. This thing really, it touches a nerve with me. Like, Giants fans are so entitled and so goddamn annoying. Like, go ahead and keep flying that plane like an asshole in perpetuity. Like, Brian Dable's going to go 10-7 next year, and you're going to look like a freaking idiot.
Dable doesn't seem like the problem. To me, I'm with you on that.
It's like,
they have a lot of problems.
You're scoring touchdowns with Tim Boyle. Like, the players who are supposed to be playing well are playing well.
All right, let's keep moving on. Up next, we head to Cleveland. Ooh, jaunty. The Chiefs may appear vulnerable in some respects, but here we are in mid-December, and those stubborn SOBs are still sitting on 1 loss. Cue the Jesse Pinkman sound, Gravedigger. Love putting Justin on the spot, in a big spot. Scramble, scramble, scramble. Scramble, scramble, scramble. Oh, my God.
You can't keep getting away with it!
It was on like page 14. Sunday was another take-care of business affair for the defending champions, who rode a dominating defensive effort that included 6 forced turnovers and 5 sacks of a certified frazzled Jameis Winston to a 21-7 win over the Browns, who legitimately only play theatrical, enjoyable football if they are in prime time. The biggest story here is the health of Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes suffered what was deemed to be a high ankle sprain on a high-low hit with 8 minutes to play. Carson Wentz finished out the game. Mahomes reportedly week to week is what we're hearing out there, and I think we have some sound. Mahomes on his injury right here.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say right now. I mean, obviously, still adrenaline rolling, and usually it's kind of the day after when you kind of get a good sense of it. But I feel like I could have finished the game in different circumstances, but I thought the smart decision, I think we talked about, was to put Carson in, and he's played a lot of football, and he finished the game well. You know what you have to do to get back, and I think that's the most important thing. And now we just get back to the rehab part, the treatment part, and try to get ourselves ready on a short week against a good football team.
All right. Cue the conspiracy theorists that this is not a real injury. We do know that Mahomes has experience in this realm. He allegedly had a high ankle sprain in the Super Bowl a couple years ago and had an incredible comeback win over the Eagles. So now he's banged up. So it's one more challenge for Kansas City. And I guess, Mark, like when we talk about the Chiefs being vulnerable, the one thing that obviously could knock them out of the Super Bowl mix is if Mahomes exits the picture. But this is also a symptom of another one of their issues that you can't ignore, which is they haven't done a good job protecting Patrick Mahomes. Yeah. He's getting hit a lot, and he got hurt today as a result. So just a little bit more doubt creeps in for Kansas City if you're inclined to look at it that way.
Well, look at the Super Bowl they lost to the Bucs, and that came off of having issues at both tackle positions, and they have him again. He's been hit a lot the past couple of weeks. I think it's probably taken a toll on his body. I don't know how serious this is, but he was legit hobbling around, and they've had to take Joe Thuney and move him from guard to tackle, and they kept Myles Garrett very quiet in the first half, and then Garrett had what looked like a scary eye injury, but Garrett came back in the game and had 7 pressures on 20 pass rushes in the second half, and that's when all this went down. So, the Chiefs find a way to win, but they win 21-7 against a Browns team that had 4 interceptions, a fumble, and a few big special teams issues. It's look at, the Browns, I don't know if I watched a team all day that was we want you to win. We want to help you. We don't need to do this. And I'm watching the defense play really well for the most part in a bad situation, and an offense that cannot get out of its own way. And it's Jameis Winston went from being one of the better, I guess, stories, we like the personality, to and maybe sort of a fascinating concept of maybe sticking around in the offseason too. I think you're playing yourself out of any future starting gig anywhere. It's too much of a liability.
My feeling on this, I shared it after that Thursday night game. It's kind of the best possible situation to help Browns leadership have a clear-eyed view, because I don't think Jameis Winston should be anybody's long-term answer quarterback. Right. I think he's up to 12 interceptions, and he took over the job in week 8. The guy
he has 12 giveaways since week 12.
He's an iconic.
Since week 12 alone, the most
right.
in the NFL.
He's an iconic player in terms of being careless with the ball, and some of the interceptions are just they're grotesque, but they're also beautiful, and how horrific they are in terms of decision making. The one he threw into double coverage, it's how do you not see that? I thought you got LASIK. He throws the ball up for grabs way too much, and you can't roll with that guy. Beyond more, someone that could be a figure of entertainment on the right night. So, there's that end of it for the Browns. And the only other one I want to just touch on quickly here before we move is, by the way, James got benched in this game. I should mention that.
Right.
And after the game, Stefanski didn't necessarily say we're rolling with Jameis next week. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is a former 5th-round pick last year, and I wonder if they're going to take a look at him with nothing to play for. Jerome Ford for the Browns went over 100 scrimmage yards in this game, including a 62-yard touchdown where he turned on the juice and was yeah, you don't see that from the other guy who happens to be one of the best running backs in the league, and Nick Chubb, and Chubb got hurt again today.
He broke
his foot,
yeah,
and his season is over, and it was a difficult season for Chubb. I just want to give the floor over to Stefanski to explain what's going on with Nick Chubb.
I've told you guys this before, but I've gotten to have a first row seat to what he's been able to do. I can't tell you how much I respect him as a person, what he means to this football team. So really, really disappointed about this injury. Does not change the fact that he's continues to inspire this football team with how he approaches every single day. And I know this is just another obstacle that he will overcome.
Mark, that is obviously Chubb has so much respect of everybody in that locker room, and was one of the best players in football before the knee injury last year. You just wonder what his future holds after 2 kind of nightmare years for him.
Yeah, and he had major knee surgery and damage and injuries going back to college, so he didn't look like the same guy. This doesn't help. And I think, it's another months of loneliness, because I think that's what you hear from these guys, that when you're rehabbing, you're alone. And it's just Chubb, it's 2 lost years in a row for someone who was the heart of the team. And they haven't had a heart since then, outside of Myles Garrett. They just have not.
All right, let us move on. And we'll keep an eye on the Mahomes situation. We'll have an update after Monday Night Football tomorrow, most likely. But he was pressured 21 times before leaving this game. So the Chiefs, I'm telling you, 12-1 or whatever, 13-1. What are they now? They are ripe to be picked off this year, even at 13-1. We'll see. All right, up next, we move to the desert. Marc Sessler, Pats, Cardinals.
Can a podcaster living in a rental apartment harness the power to curse a pro football team? Not when that team is facing the 2024 New England Patriots. You knew Mark was sitting pretty right out of the gate when the football gods allowed Greg Dortch's fumble into the end zone. There it goes, about to dribble out of bounds, to be snatched by big-bodied tackle Jonah Williams. Touchdown Cardinals. Not when Kyler Murray looks possibly murdered on a hit. In comes Clayton Tune, but Kyler's back on the next drive, as if touched by his guardian angels. Not when the Patriots are 9 players away from a serious day at the office with the Crafts going nuts up in their precious suite. Are the Cardinals cursed? Did the person speaking curse them? He probably did. Shit. But not today, suckers. Cardinals 30, Patriots 17.
Hey, had to get it, needed it, and to the Cardinals' credit, Mark, and it was the ultimate test of the curse, because if they would have got beat by the Patriots in their building, you knew the wheels were off. So they take care of business. You mentioned the suite, the precious suite of the Crafts. Do we have that clip, Justin? Jonathan Kraft, Bob's son, and the other, big guy in that organization. At one point in the first half, you could see him mouth the words, "Play calling is terrible," and he's just being, you wonder again. We talked about the coaching staff in New England. If they are safe, that does not look like a happy, precious luxury suite.
There was also, after the game, someone asked Gerard Mayo about why Drake May wasn't running on a goal line play, and then he said, "Well, you said it." And so that's just as clear of an indication as anybody is. That's just hurling your offensive coordinator under the bus. And he did a nice, Alex Van Pelt had a good chunk of the season. And all of a sudden, everyone's just turned on the poor guy.
I'd also say that hidden inside this ridiculous loss, that Drake May, and I don't know how else to say it at this point. I don't know why they're so upset up in the suite, maybe in a particular moment, but he just looks to me like something that you absolutely build around. So I think that raises even more questions about what's the best player we can get for this guy that looks real. He had a drive and a couple of throws down the stretch they were hanging around. I wouldn't say hanging around. They a couple productive drives where it's he can throw the ball insanely. And there was this one play where he was rushing towards the end zone and he was about to get smashed, and he did a Patrick Mahomes quick flip into the end zone for a score, and the announcing crew was like, "Wait, what did we just see?" It looked pretty surreal from the camera angle, and it's just that he knew what to do in the moment. So that's your hope right there. They've got to put people around him, but they really are they are talent-wise, they just get so outclassed. Their left tackle was getting destroyed, the Patriots, and the Cardinals this was what they're good at. They can be powerful. You get enough from Kyler Murray, and this is the one they win. Now, I think that it raises my standing in them? I would say that my overranking of the Cardinals was probably going to go down as one of the things people will remember about my ill predictions this season. This was a respite. This was a respite. I do get that.
They got the win they needed. They're 7-7. And yeah, to your Drake May point, the one interception he had was a well-thrown ball to Kayshon Boutte, who not only drops the ball, it appears, at least from the camera angle that we saw when it's live, that he scoops it and then flips it to the Arizona defender. It's you got to get this kid some proper villains to play with. Because, just not good enough. Oh, man, Trey McBride still doesn't have a touchdown. Guys, not only does Trey McBride, 10 targets in this game, 9 catches on 10 targets for 87 yards. The man does not have a touchdown this year. I can't believe it. How many games can you have 8 to 12 catches and not score a touchdown? This is a historic season.
And they did a play that's an automatic touchdown-esque type of play from the 1 yard line. They ran the classic shovel pat, the one the Chiefs made famous with Kelsey. The McBride comes in motion in front of the quarterback, and they shovel pass it to him, and he got stuffed to hit the half-inch line. It was crazy.
He's projected to finish with 105 catches on 139 targets. And as of right now, 0 touchdowns.
I'm not.
He seems like a nice young man. I don't want to I don't want him to be saddled with that fate of. I can't imagine there's ever been a 100-yard pass catcher in NFL history that never scored a touchdown.
He has the most receptions right now in a season without a touchdown already.
Incredible.
Before he gets to 100.
You could argue he's the best tight end in the league.
That's never scored a touchdown this season. Yes.
I mean,
It's the craziest stat of the season, I think, that man does not have a touchdown yet, and we'll be tracking it closely. All right, Mark, good job. You got a dub. Let's take a break, and we will finish out the Week 15 slate.
Football season is winding down, but there's still plenty of time to get into the action on Underdog. With higher, lower pick'em entries, daily drafts, streaks, and more, there's never been a better time to start playing. And it's not just the NFL. The NBA is back. You've got NHL, college sports, so many options. So don't miss out. Just scan the QR code on your screen to download and play on the Underdog app. Or if you're not watching on YouTube, sign up with the code HTC and you can receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. Make the most of this NFL season before it's gone by playing along on Underdog. For our U.S. audience, only.
All right, we are back. A few more games to go in this loaded Week 15. Oh, it's Sky Rizzy time with Conor Orr. I can't wait.
Down in the French Quarter of New Orleans, they call it Passion Ardente, fiery passion. But here in the Superdome, in Sky Rizzy's house, it's simply a way of life, a manner of business. In a narrow 20-19 loss to the Commanders, we saw America's favorite intern fight like Attila the Hun, gamble like Kenny Rogers, and love like Sally Field and Forrest Gump. He switched quarterbacks, perfectly utilized his timeouts, and it was nearly enough to pull off the upset of the week. Yes, we should all be talking a little bit more about Jaden Daniels, but after this masterclass, I'm not even kidding, guys. I'm dead serious. It might be time to consider the possibility that Rizball is here to stay. Come on!
Did we remember 7 days ago, Connor, the locker room reaction to Sky Rizzy's excitement in New Jersey?
Dude, this guy...
I mean, I'm not taking anything away from him. I'm just saying, like, that to me screamed like a team that's playing out the string with a guy that they're just ambivalent about. But tell us why you find him to be a gifted game manager, or what where are you getting at here?
I mean, everything. So the whole thing. So that you start Jake Haener in this game, and it was an absolute disaster. He was under pressure, put himself under pressure, basically, on all of his dropbacks in the first half.
I think he put himself under pressure with his photo shoot that came into this week. I mean, some of the greatest, most manicured eyebrows I've ever seen.
That's true. But at halftime, Darren Rizzi had said, during the week, I also gave Spencer Rattler the full buffet of the play calls, and I watched him. I watched how he was handling everything, and I thought that there was a chance that he could give us a spark. In the second half, Spencer Rattler neutralized the Commanders' pass rush, and I will say this. We can get to the gentle caressing of Jake Haener's hair at one point by Rizzi that just showed the love and the look at this.
So many levels to him. Oh,
wow. Look at the squeezing and the
va-va-voom.
Yeah. I mean, this is a guy
the
who
father
cares.
and a toddler almost type move
Yeah.
there. Right.
That looks like a guy's been staring at the Jake Haener photo gallery all week.
Oh, okay.
But here's what really impressed me. So the Saints' pass defense today were like berserkers, 8 or 9 sacks. Like they had one of their best games of the season against Jaden Daniels. But at the end of the game, it's within a touchdown, and he perfectly utilizes his timeouts because he starts them early. And then he backstops himself where the 2-minute warning ends up being the third timeout. Then you get the ball back for a touchdown drive. And what you can do that the Commanders weren't prepared for was run a ton. And so they were gashing the Commanders with the run, set themselves up for the game-winning touchdown. And I love the cojones to go for it for 2. He said after the game, he was like, I know the axiom, right? When you're at home, you take the points. When you're on the road, you go for 2. But he's like, I believe in these guys. And I loved it. I thought they responded to him. I thought they played well for him. And I'll just say, in a general sense, he manages games better than 15 of active head coaches in the NFL right now. He knows what he's doing.
I should point out that Sky Rizzi and the Saints were helped by a pretty big mess up by the officiating crew with the clock, huh?
Well, the clock manager in this game was completely asleep at the wheel because there was 2 clock-related disasters.
Or he was high on cocaine.
Might have been. He may have been
That is
the guy.
correct.
Yeah.
Mark's reporting.
High as balls over here.
So at the end of the third quarter, I think it was, the Commanders were lining up for a field goal, and Rizzi is over by the officials because he's thinking about challenging a play that happened the play before. And he said he's literally talking to the official, and he goes, quarter's going to end, quarter's going to end, quarter's going to end, and the clock hits 0. 6 more seconds go off the play clock. They allow the Commanders to take a field goal. He misses. And then the officials go, oh, we missed it. The quarter ended. And he was allowed to kick again at the start of the next quarter. And Rizzi is like, I've been coaching kickers for 30 years. If you give a guy a crack at it and he misses, he's going to hit the second one.
Sure.
And so he flipped out, and he went after the officials in his postgame, which I loved. And to a point, well, it wasn't aggressive, but he got asked another officiating question because 3 points were taken off the board on kind of a ticky-tack field goal penalty. And he said, well, I'm done talking about this because I'm already on thin ice. But the Rizzler, man, I love it. I love every minute of it. And my question to you is, and the reason I said this, who the hell are the Saints going to get that's any better than this guy? Like, he's winning games. Like, he's coaching well, and you get to keep Clint Kubiak, who, again, there was a point where they had 2 other players on this team that had more touchdown passes than Jake Haener in the first half. Like, he was pulling it all out of the bag of tricks. This is a decent coaching staff. I
always wonder if, like, Mickey Loomis would be like, well, it's just easier to keep this guy than do an actual coaching search.
But it's so much easier than humiliating yourself because, like, and no offense to Darren Rizzi, like, I think he's a good head coach, but, like, who the hell is going to want this job? Like,
I don't want to say, you know what? I don't want to say anything else because I love
so
this version of Connor that views Sky Rizzi as a cross between like 1966 Vince Lombardi and 2007 Bill Belichick. So I will say nothing other than I agree. I believe they should give him a 15-year extension.
Please
and install him. Rip off that interim label. And the locker room's reaction after the extension is announced would sound like this.
Okay, get all those guys and send them out of town. I want people who are going to play for the Rizzler in my building. Let's go.
There you go. I love it. I love it. By the way, did you address the clock situation though? I know you mentioned the one with the field goal, but so Spencer Rattler hits Foster Moreau, tackled at Washington's 1-yard line with 9 seconds remaining.
It stayed at like 9 seconds for like 4 seconds.
Side judge Jim Quirk ran to the ball and signaled for a clock stoppage, and the clock was stopped for at least 4 seconds and possibly 5.
Yeah.
And that allowed the Saints to spike the ball. If the Commanders get beat on that would have been a massive story. We can't get that wrong. We got to come on, guys.
My favorite part of it was Luke Johnson, who's great. He's a Saints reporter down in New Orleans. He was the pool reporter, and so he asked, and the head of officiating was like, "Yeah, we messed it up." You know, he thought he stopped the clock, and then Luke was just kind of like, how the f*** does that happen? And then the official just said, that's all I got for you, Luke.
Yeah, sometimes that's all that you can do.
That's all I got for you, man. Like,
all right, let's move to Charlotte, where the Panthers were favorites for the first time in a couple of years. Justin, how'd it turn out?
I'm glad you said that because my open starts with the Panthers came into this game favored for the first time in nearly 2 full years. But the result was similar to the last time they were favored. They did not really show up to play in this one. Their pass rush, virtually non-existent. Run defense, a total sieve. And the Cowboys defense was kind of the opposite. They harassed Bryce Young all day long. Rico Dowdle led the NFL in rushing for the day, pending what happens on Sunday Night Football. With 149 yards on the ground, Cooper Rush was pretty good in this game. CeeDee Lamb especially was on fire. And the Cowboys leave Carolina with a 30-14 win and playoff hopes still kind of alive.
I'm picturing later on tonight, Justin sitting on the couch, having a glass of wine with his lovely girlfriend, Jessica, and just venting about the show. Hanzus, he f***ing sandbagged me on my intro for Cowboys Panthers. Sandbagged me.
He'll still be editing the show when that happens. There's no sitting on the glass with the wine at this point.
The Cowboys are indeed mathematically still alive in the NFC, which is pretty insane. But yeah, let's see. Let me take a look at this. Let's see if they're
12.
getting, when I check in on the ESPN page, do they get anything under the reason column? Because that's when you need to start taking it seriously.
Nope.
No.
Dash.
Double dash.
Yeah.
Double dash. 6 and 8. So we're not there yet.
We're not there yet,
I was going to say one thing, Justin, that you point out. Rico Dowdle, over the last 3 weeks, because that's been they can't run the ball. Over the last 3 weeks, he's been legit a real factor. But I don't know what that means in the larger scheme of our Earth after all of this, because that's not probably the permanent answer. But he did it again.
He runs hard. He makes people miss. He's a pretty talented guy. I'm kind of surprised that nobody in the Cowboys organization realized that coming into the season, and they tried to make Ezekiel Elliott still happen. Maybe that was a Jerry Jones mandate. I don't know.
It certainly feels like it. Yeah.
It does.
But I also wonder in this game specifically how much of it was just Carolina looking more like first half of the season Carolina and a lot less like the recent Panthers that we've seen, because they were they were bad across the board, offense and defense, outside of an 80-something yard touchdown to Jalen Coker caught and ran to the end zone, which was a nice play by Bryce Young, and Jalen Coker 83-yard touchdown. Other than that, the Panthers offense just didn't really show up in this game, and that happened pretty close to halftime. It made it a 10-7 halftime game after Brandon Aubrey missed a 70-yard field goal.
No, I saw that.
Come on, we can't be sending my man out there for 70s. Those percentages dictate contracts. We keep sending him out. This is not the first time they've sent him out for,
They're trying to break the record.
Yeah, I know, but 70? You put my man in a bad spot.
It's wild. But it felt like a game at halftime, and then the Cowboys came out in the second half and just kind of played like how the Cowboys sort of maybe expected to play entering this year and haven't done a lot this season, but maybe it's because the game wasn't in Dallas and they just can't play well in Dallas this season. But yeah, the Panthers defense was not good on any level. It made all these guys for Dallas look better. Cooper Rush, Rico Dowdle. I don't want to say it made CeeDee Lamb look better, but it made him look better than he's looked most of this season.
Lamb is he's coming off now back-to-back good games, and doesn't help me anymore because my fantasy team went up against Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen today.
Wait a minute.
CeeDee Lamb has not good. CeeDee Lamb 9 for 116 and a touchdown. His chemistry with Cooper Rush was slow to start, but and let's give Cooper Rush some credit. 18 to 29, 214, 3 touchdowns, no picks. He's been pretty good, actually.
Did that
and
last
certainly,
year.
I think, the right play over Trey Lance.
Oh, no doubt. He was good today, but again, the Panthers could not muster up a pass rush to save their life in this one. So he had all day to sit in the pocket and pick them apart, which credit to him for doing that. But again, I don't know what happened to the Panthers today. Maybe they saw the game spread before they came in and they were like, oh, we're favored to win, so we don't have to try as hard. I'm sure that's not what happened, but it felt a little bit like that may have been. Yeah.
All right. I think we can move on from this game and give us one more. Let's head to Nashville because I know you have thoughts.
What a game! 10 combined turnovers. 223 combined penalty yards. A fumble returned for a touchdown that actually wasn't because Jordan Battle refumbled the ball out the back of the end zone and gave it back to the Titans. A 366-pound defensive tackle picked up a fumble, stiff-armed Alex Kappa to the netherworld and rumbled for 30 yards. Joe Burrow, 2 interceptions. Will Levis, 3 interceptions over the span of 4 pass attempts, including a pick 6. He was benched. Get Mason Rudolph in there. Mason Rudolph won the minutes that he played. 13-6. Look at Mason Rudolph. But the Bengals won this game by 10. However, it was not that close because the Titans scored a completely meaningless touchdown as time expired. So Like, they didn't even get to kick an extra point because time had ended and the game was over. Final score, 37. Bengals, 27. Titans, 10 combined turnovers, most in a game since 2007, and 223 combined penalty yards. This game was such a chore to watch despite the 64 total points that were put up. I texted you guys, this game was drunk because it was like, Burrow throws a pick. Oh, Levis throws a pick right back. Burrow fumbles the ball. Titans give it right back. The Bengals pick up a fumble and are literally going to return it for a touchdown, but it's fumbled before it wasn't a Jonathan Taylor, he just dropped it situation. He was like running with it and just like lost it out the back of the end zone. It was wild.
It wasn't the Malachi Corley situation. It wasn't the Jonathan Taylor situation, but he was beginning his celebration. So as he was crossing over, he was like moving the ball from one hand to the other needlessly, and he gets hit with a horrific gaffe of his own. Yeah, your team sucks, dude.
They suck.
I wonder what happens with this whole regime too, and Will Levis is rubber stamping himself out of town. 8 for 12, 3 interceptions. Here's Brian Callahan after the game, and again, we remember Callahan early in the season when Levis was doing the meme of the week every week, being furious with his QB. He just sounds, at least reading this quote, I'm curious to listen to it now, like a guy that's just defeated. Like it's not Will Levis's fault alone that the Titans suck, but Will Levis turning out not to be the guy I thought he was has really killed them in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of positives that I do like and I am excited about. It's just there's too many negatives that don't give us a chance to win a game, and that's where we're at right now.
Too many negatives that don't give us a chance to win the game.
But how else do you say it?
That's an indictment.
How else do you
and
say it?
And you went on to say that they're not getting enough positive plays in a row from the quarterback position specifically. And one really interesting note, when Will Levis was benched in this game, he did not speak to Brian Callahan about it. He was told by quarterbacks coach Bo Hardigree, "You're not going back in." And he was like wincing with his shoulder during pregame warmups. There was a 3rd and 12 in this game where the Titans called a read option, and Levis got absolutely smoked on the play. Didn't even come close to converting, and a lot of like speculation that he may have re-aggravated his shoulder on that play. But regardless, I think you're 100% right. Will Levis, he built up some goodwill over the last 4 to 5 games playing better football. Not good, but better. And then today happens, and it's like you can't trust this guy to drop back and throw a pass because he's not reading the field well. He's inaccurate on some balls. Like the second interception wasn't necessarily his fault. It was a bad pass. Nick Westbrook-Akina, gets a hand on it and just tips it right into the defenders. It was similar to Drake May's interception, but it was still a really inaccurate pass. So it is Levis's fault ultimately.
There was an actual quarterback in this game, and he seemed quite peeved by at one point that video that we have. Yeah,
what was this about? Because this was at the end of a game that they're comfortably leading by 16 points, 1 minute 9 seconds to play, and this is a quote again, lip reading here. That was f***ing embarrassing. F*** that, we suck today.
It's week after week.
It's my only thought, Mark, about keep an eye on this as we head towards the offseason for the Cincinnati Bengals. Where's Joe Burrow's headspace at? And if I was a Bengals fan, I'd just be a little nervous that even at the end of a win, he just looks unhappy, and you wonder if that manifests itself in anything as we spin toward the offseason.
I just wonder about it's the relationship with his coach, quarterback coach, his coordinator, his head coach, and it's is it the kind of thing, and I think you mentioned this a while back, where it's the mantra of the offseason is we get Joe Burrow involved, we make sure that we keep his guys around, and we empower him the way that you would empower someone in a small market franchise that you don't want to somehow lose sooner than you should. You want to keep him there for multiple contracts, multiple years, and it seems like every week, you talk about your Will Levis meme or whatever, but we're getting this from Burrow on a weekly basis, it seems irritation, agitation, frustration.
And they still haven't paid Jamar Chase, obviously. They haven't paid T. Higgins, so they have 2 big contracts they got to work out this offseason to keep Burrow happy. And I don't know what he was pissed about. They didn't really give us much context in the broadcast because, the Bengals put up 30 points on offense, 37 points total. And their defense, who we've been asking to just step up and play well for once in your lives, forced 6 turnovers today and played pretty good football. The Titans put up 27 points, but only 21 real points. The last 6, again, complete worse than garbage time, like post garbage time. So the defense stepped up and played pretty well. The offense was on fire like they have been. This was a complete game for the Bengals outside of the 4 turnovers they committed, one of which was the fumble out the back of the end zone, so you hardly count that. Burrow did throw 2 picks that were like not good passes. The first one was, I don't know what he was looking at, and the second one was underthrown, and the safety dove in and picked it off. But the Bengals played well. Like, they dominated this game, even though they only won by 10 points.
Just to note, 6-8 Cincinnati is, and they also, Mark, have the double dash next to under the column for what they need to go right for the playoffs. But they finish with. Let's see. They finish with
more like
home Browns.
RIP. I don't need double dash.
Home Broncos at Steelers. So they got to start by winning out and then hope the Chargers or the Broncos collapse. Otherwise,
the Chargers have to lose all 3 because the Chargers have only 2-game lead on Cincinnati, but it's essentially a 3-game lead because they have the head-to-head tiebreaker.
Right.
So they have to win out, and the Chargers have to lose out.
So very bleak indeed for Cincinnati, but still a flickering pulse. All right. That takes us to Sunday Night Football. Oh, the Green Bay Packers. That is a team that intrigues me, especially after the performance they put on Sunday Night Football. A 30-13 win over the Seattle Seahawks at Lumen Field. A really thorough piece of footballing by Matt LaFleur and his merry band of marauders, who put up 14 points unanswered in the first quarter and never really feel like this game ever comes in any danger of slipping away. So the Packers moved to 10-4, and they look really good doing it. And Seattle ends this game with questions how they're going to close the season and where Geno Smith fits in after he leaves this game with an injury. Marc Sessler.
Right, that changes everything, because while someone like Sam Howell, who comes in, has starting experience, he also threw 21 interceptions a year ago, which led the NFL, and he's sort of a roller coaster ride, and it kind of nullifies everything that the Seahawks hope to be with Geno Smith, which is consistent, which has been someone where it's like he's not the star of the league, but he can carry you to this point in the season. I just found the pressure they put on him. This is not something that the Packers, historically do to quarterbacks. Like tonight, they had 7 sacks. The first 5 came without actually blitzing. That's pretty rare. And they put him in a blender and they completely confused Sam Howell. And they're just a very complete team. I'm with you. I'm just intrigued because it seems like there was a moment in the game when you had the Josh Jacobs, and he started so well, but the Josh Jacobs fumble. Is this where a team starts to unravel a little bit and come on out and maybe have a team like Seattle at home climb back in, and then they put the clamps on them? So it's another kind of way to win a game for Green Bay, and I'm really impressed. And I think it's only annoying that the way we categorize playoff systems is that their record aside doesn't necessarily put them where they should be seeded wise, but that's how they do it.
Can we talk about a punter for a second?
Sure.
That guy.
Dude. So after the Thanksgiving game, the Miami game, when the Dolphins return guy completely just lost the ball, I kept looking for I wanted to see the trajectory of it, and I watched the game over again. I watched the all 22. I couldn't see it, and so I wrote in the power rankings that I could only just imagine what it looked like bearing down on them. Well, tonight we got a look at it, and I was so happy. For the first time, Chris Collinsworth did something that made me happy. But you could see the way that ball comes down, cascading down, and it just keeps shifting, hooking towards the sideline like that. That is going to be a deadly weapon in a cold night game. If they can possibly get an opponent at Lambeau Field at some point in the postseason, look out. I mean, that is how many tactical just mistakes have we seen this week already? Two guys this week dropped balls before they walked into the end zone. There was a huge fumble punt in the Steelers-Eagles game that could have turned the tide of that game. And it's just we're looking at these little moments, and it's this guy is just he's weaponized at this point.
Sometimes when a game slips away in terms of being good theater for the telecast, you'll see that telecast get kind of exposed and you kind of drag into the finish line. One of the good things about, and I am a fan of this team, Tirico and Collinsworth, in fairness, but they get to dig into their bag of tricks, like in case of blowout, start talking about this stuff. And you'll get good nuggets like that and the great look at the ball and how it was like, curling around his foot. And I thought Collinsworth, did a good job explaining why that makes it difficult for the returner. Yeah, seasons can be decided by something like a muff punt and Green Bay. Like, they just feel, Mark, very dangerous to me. And I think they mentioned on the telecast as well, and something I agree with. They don't need to be in Lambeau Field for me to think that they can make a lot of noise in the playoffs. If they end up being the wild card, which is a pretty good chance, this is not a team that I want to see, just like the Cowboys didn't want to see him last year. I think this team, with Jordan Love playing now in a much cleaner version of football, and the balance that they have and the way the defense is so much better than it's been in the last couple of years. Like this, in an NFC where we just saw the Lions get lit up like a Christmas tree again by another contender, like the Packers have a shot in this conference, and it makes it exciting when you think about January football. Yeah,
it matters where you are now, and the Detroit of September I wouldn't have felt that way about, but I'm watching also a Packers team with, they mentioned tonight, like they've got a bunch of people that are not playing right now, like a Jair Alexander and other players like that. Edgar and Cooper, who's the rookie linebacker out of Texas A&M, and had an interception, almost had a sack. Like, these are young players that are growing up like before our eyes, and then we've talked about the offensive side of it so much that it's kind of all happening at once. I think it'd be structurally hard to keep everyone like 2 or 3 years from now, but this is how Super Bowl teams occur and NFC Championship teams occur, with young guys filling in their role in December and January. So they're really well coached on both sides of the ball. You've got these secret weapons like Connor's mentioning, scientific things that come from like deep space, and a lot of good young players. It's kind of like, all right, this is why they're scary, and it's very tangible and very real.
One thing I think you can tell, and I watched a couple of their games back to back the other day, and the rise of Josh Jacobs and the violence in the way that he runs, it completely plays against the opposing linebackers now, because the play action is so much better even than it was at the beginning of the season. And you're getting linebackers that are sucked up almost to the line of scrimmage, because that's the violence that you have to meet Josh Jacobs with. And it's just opening massive swaths of field, that Jordan Love can use to complete easy passes. It was there earlier in the season, but I promise you it's so much different. If you go back and you watch play action the first couple weeks in Green Bay and you watch it now, it's different, and it's going to mean something in the playoffs, I'm telling you.
And I love the Packers' aggression in this game. They win the toss to start the game. They elect to receive, and then in their first 4 possessions, they score. They go on drives of 63, 80, 51, and 83. This is a Seattle team, and of course entered this game on a 4-game winning streak, but you would not think that as you watch this, and it kind of gets the rubber stamp with that. A beautiful catch by Romeo Doubs in the back of the end zone, scooping it off the turf with 4:49 left to make it a laugher. And the Geno injury now is the thing that we watch, and Justin is checking out Twitter. We're recording this just a few minutes after the game ended. It was a knee injury. He was hit low with 7:12 to play, I believe, in the third quarter. And he left the field, came back at one point, warmed up, and it looked like he might be going back in the game. But he ended up retreating back to the bench with his knee heavily wrapped. So I don't need to tell you that the Seahawks are sunk if Geno Smith misses a lot of time. Sam Howell has never been my favorite quarterback to watch, and in this game, it was pretty rough. It is a reminder, and even when they made a couple stops on defense in the second half, but when you have a backup quarterback who's not quite up to the challenge and he keeps throwing short of the sticks, it can be very, very frustrating to watch. So if this is the case, Seattle could be in trouble here if Geno's out for any extended stretch of time, but we don't know yet where he's at.
Did anyone have a problem? It's 23-13. There's about 9 minutes and 40 seconds left, and Seattle has it at 4th and 5. They're at their own 37, and they punt. And I get it, like, in another time, at another point in the game, I wouldn't have a problem with that. But you're going to give the ball back to Josh Jacobs and to Green Bay, and the game felt over to me at that point with that decision to some degree. And they showed, McDonald walking up and down the field and kind of like hearing the crowd going utterly nuts. And I was like, I would have maybe been more aggressive there.
How did that play out? What happened on the ensuing drive?
They get the ball.
Didn't they get a stop?
They were stopped too, because that's where Josh Jacobs, I believe, was stopped on 4th and 2 after that. But they chewed more time off the clock. It's just like time really mattered there, and I think being aggressive mattered, but not everyone would agree.
That was the first time that I ever saw a coach respond to crowd noise in real time, because you could see him mouth, "What do they want me to do? It's 4th and 5." And they were backed up deep in their own territory. But I've never seen it. I guess it was good camera work, maybe, right? But you go right from the cascading crowd noise to Mike. And I thought it was funny because he was taken aback by the reaction of the crowd, I think, which again is like something you don't really ever see before. But it was fascinating to watch him just be like, what do they want me to do? Like, I have my backup quarterback.
Yeah, it ended up costing them because Green Bay took over, had the ball for 7 plays, covered 45 yards of ground, and then got stuffed on 3rd and 2 incomplete pass where Reed slipped, and then they get stopped at 4th and 2. So it ended up costing them a little under 4 minutes in clock time. But I tend to think the reason why McDonald's in that spot is because he doesn't obviously trust the quarterback to make the throw that he needs to make there, and he was just he's kind of caught in between a little bit. And sure enough, they take the ball back after getting that stop, and 2 plays later, Hal throws a terrible interception that more or less kind of puts the game away. So Seattle's certainly in a little bit of trouble, and we have an update here. This is from our buddy, developing news from Michael Sean Dugar, our Thursday compadre, because Tom Brohal. Geno Smith has a knee injury. We'll do all the tests tomorrow, Mike McDonald says. Structurally, it looks like it's okay. He doesn't know whether Geno will have to miss time. Tests will determine that. Okay, so they think structurally he's okay, and now we wait. So let me take a look at this playoff picture, boys, before we sign off. Now that you got Seattle taking an L, losing their quarterback.
And they've got the Vikings, Bears, and Rams. That Rams game is massive.
All right, so Mark, you're Arizona Cardinals dreamer, you and Zumwalt, and they are 7-7, and behind Seattle directly right now, and Seattle's on the outside looking in right now at 8-6 with a game behind Washington. So, yeah. However, the NFC West, of course, is also the matter at hand for Seattle, which has 2 avenues to make the playoffs, and they're tied now with the Rams at 8-6. Look at the Rams. What a weird division that is. I feel like someone rises from the dead or like collapses into ashes every week. And this week it's Seattle's turn. So we'll see what happens. All right. Anything else, Connor?
We're positive that you, after the draft, were allowed to drop a team and pick up another team. And me, 2 days after the draft, am not allowed to drop the Seahawks and pick up the Buccaneers.
Oh, well, if we're extending the process to after games have been played, like if that's the case, then I'm gonna drop the 49ers.
I could see where you're going with this. I created there was an issue in our fantasy league where all of a sudden, like everything locks at 1 p.m. on Sunday for good. You don't get to touch anything until after Monday.
Sure.
And so we had Lad McConkey, who was out. And so the guy that I co-own the team with just texted the owner of the league, and it's a big money league, and he's just like, this rule is dumb. And the guy goes, you know what, you're right. And he just dropped a phantom player on the roster and gave us Josh Palmer in like right before the start of Sunday Night Football, and everyone freaked the out. And so I can understand why you don't want to do this, and there needs to be a hard cap. But
this is kind of fun though.
Yeah.
How about this?
Hold on, I want to get involved. I'm sure I've got a
I was going to say
on my list.
Do we want to, just for fun, like after the Sunday games, any of us can make one more move?
Well, yeah. It would be a more updated list. I think that's the advantage. We'd look less foolish.
So if you want to make
Lions
one
back.
move, do we have that? Do we have that list?
How are we deciding though that out of pocket
Stupid draft we did, or dumb draft?
Yeah,
so
like,
let's
and
dig
I-
back in on this one.
I root for Conor's success, but why do we assume that Conor would make the first switch here? Like, would we not randomize that?
I had to take the
Oh, that's fair. That's fair, Mark.
Connor did have the last pick in a draft that was only 3 rounds. So even though we did snake it, like he only got to pick first in 1 round, and he had to pick last in 2 rounds.
That's a reasonable.
No, I found
explanation.
my data points. For some reason, there's a line from Mark Gastineau on the top.
Some reason.
I'm going to get my sack back.
Mark has the Lions, the Vikings, and the Ravens, right? The Lions.
Yeah,
the
you
Ravens,
guys traded the Ravens and the Vikings.
the Texans.
I don't need to touch that at all.
Okay, and Connor, you have the Packers. That's looking good. The Steelers, not so good, and the Seahawks. Woofa.
Dirt nap.
Can I just get the Bucs instead of the Seahawks?
I would approve that. Like I would approve that.
Oh,
If
yeah,
you guys
sure.
I don't think the Bucks or the Seahawks are going to win the Super Bowl, and therefore I don't have an issue with you swapping
It just
it.
looks better.
And what I'll do is we'll just completely erase any memory of my 49ers dalliance, and I will reassume control of the Commanders.
Okay.
And I drafted extremely well, so I'm going to stick with exactly the 3 teams I have: Chiefs, Eagles, Rams.
I'll give you something else to stick.
Hey.
Right up the old keister.
Hey. Like this?
Stick it up the guy's ass, which I've done. I've done it, and I'm not ashamed. All right, reminder, in addition to this midweek show having the Conor Orr Holiday Spectacular, Hallmark Holiday Spectacular, also the live stream of our holiday touchdown, A Chiefs Love Story. I cannot wait to watch this film.
No.
And we're going to do it live with the viewers. www.patreon.com/heed the call. So make sure you sign up in time for Wednesday when we do that. And we'll see you for Monday Night Football. A game between what teams, Mark?
Well, there's multiple games, so where do you want me to start with that?
Oh, Christ, you're right.
We got the Bears visiting the Vikings and a second game.
Oh.
The Falcons and the Raiders.
I know, I'm just not mentioning
Falcons
that one.
and the Mark handled that perfectly well. We don't even need to reference it. It's Fugazi, and we see what you're doing, 345 Park Avenue, and we don't like it.
We don't.
All right, good stuff. Thank you to everybody for watching.
Yeah, Fugazi, it's a wazi,
and listening.
it's a woozy, it's a
and
fairy dust. It doesn't exist. It's never landed. It is no matter. It's not on the elemental chart. It's not fucking real.
Okay, Matthew. All right, signing off for everybody and Matthew McConaughey. Have a great night, and on we go as we start to edge toward Week 16. Can you believe it? All right, till next time. Heed the call.